It's Tuesday, the 25th of October. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blancolirio channel. And yesterday, the 24th of October, the NTSB released this important update on their investigation of the loss of the DHC-3 Otter back on 4 September of this year in the Pacific Northwest. And here's what they found. They found the stabilizer jack screw separated in the wreckage. They're not sure yet whether this was caused by the crash or was the cause of the crash. Let's check it out. This crash occurred back on September 4th. This is my third update on this crash. November 725 Tango Hotel. To date, the NTSB has recovered about 85% of the airframe of the wreckage, shown in green and in orange. Now, in previous updates, we talked quite a bit about the servo tabs located on the back of the elevators of the aircraft and the previous history that these aircraft have had with the servo tabs. We also discussed about how this aircraft is trimmed. To trim the Otter, you don't use the servo tabs. Remember, the servo tabs are aerodynamic power steering to help assist you with the pitch control of the aircraft, and the left servo tab was used in conjunction with the flaps to help minimize pitch change as you lower the flaps. The aircraft is trimmed using a trimmable horizontal stabilizer, which is a fairly conventional method of aircraft trim. In the case of the Otter, the horizontal stabilizer, I believe, is hinged at the leading edge and is trimmed at the trailing edge of the horizontal stabilizer. And it's trimmed mechanically using this barrel assembly. So you have a elevator trim tab located near the pilot's seat where he mechanically turns a crank, and through a series of cables and pulleys, this turns the barrel of the horizontal stabilizer trim actuator, which in turn jacks up or jacks down the trailing edge of the horizontal stabilizer, thus providing pitch trim to the aircraft. This barrel assembly is rotated by the cables and is fixed at the top and the bottom. What investigators have found is that this barrel was separated at the top, and it was separated in a form that looks like it was simply unscrewed, and the threads were not pulled apart from tension. And this assembly is normally locked using a snap ring or a lock ring. This is the lock ring that was not found in the wreckage, and with this lock ring missing, while actuating the trim, the barrel, you could unscrew the barrel from the top of the stabilizer mount and thus separate the entire barrel assembly. Normally, this is done to do maintenance on the horizontal trim actuator. Here's a closer look at the actual upper attachment fitting. This fitting is designed where the barrel, this part here is screwed into the barrel and it rotates via this bearing, and this part remains fixed and attached to the horizontal stabilizer. Once you get this assembly together, you are to lock it with the snap ring right here, and that snap ring tang, this little tiny tang right here, is meant to drop into one of these holes in the threaded area. Over the years, this thing has been assembled and disassembled so many times that mechanics have drilled several holes in there to try to get it aligned, to get the tang to snap in there, that some of these holes, investigators found, no longer accepted the tang of the snap ring correctly, and the snap ring would hang out like this, which would or could allow this snap ring to come apart. And then once you start actuating the trim itself, you could unscrew this entire assembly in flight. Once the horizontal stabilizer cuts loose like that, the stabilizer jack no longer has a hold of the trailing edge of the stabilizer. That stabilizer is allowed to flop around, and you will immediately lose control of the aircraft. This could also explain why this aircraft initially pitched up and then pitched down into the water. Once the stabilizer cuts loose, you'll pitch the aircraft one way, and if you put a control input to counteract that, you may very well get the stabilizer to flop down another way and pitch you down right uncontrollably into the water. According to the NTSB, the operator last overhauled the horizontal stabilizer actuator on April 21st of 2022. At this time, the NTSB does not know whether the lock ring was installed before the airplane impacted the water or why the lock ring was not present during the airplane examination. The NTSB, in coordination with the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, has asked that the manufacturer draft instructions for an inspection of the actuator to ensure that the lock ring is in place and properly engaged to prevent unthreading of the clamp nut. These instructions will be released and provided to all operators of DHC-3 airplanes worldwide in a service letter. So if you have a DHC-3 Otter, you need to check this snap ring is properly located and in place on your stabilizer jack screw. Thanks so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.